how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov video. In today's video, it has been hugely requested that I make more tips videos. So this is going to be for inexperienced players, relatively experienced players, and then, you know, maybe there might be something in here for the chads as well. And hopefully I'll be able to maybe guide you guys or give you guys some advice on stuff that you might be able to do a little bit better in your raids. So let's get into it. It is still the early wipe in Tarkov. And a lot of people are wondering, how are people already hitting level 40? How are people already, you know, pushing for their kappa? How have people got all their quests done and stuff like that? And the answer to that is speed. So one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give people is take a chance and try and do multiple quests per raid. If you see that you have a shoreline raid that you need to go and do, try and do as many shoreline quests as you can in that raid. Oftentimes this wipe, I've actually done 4 quests in like one raid. And the way that I achieve this is one little secret that nobody ever seems to do. In the early game, nobody does nighttime raids. If you want to be left alone way more than during daytime raids and get your quests done quickly and efficiently and level up quick like everybody else, you need to abuse nighttime raids. It is even worth just, if it's not nighttime yet, go do your scav run, wait until the time rolls around and get yourself straight into a nighttime raid. Because you'll be able to kill scavs more freely. If you bring a suppressed gun, it'll be a lot harder to find you. You don't even have to use NVGs. You can literally just bring a flashlight. If it is a clear night, you will be able to see no problem if the moon is out in full effect. So, moving on. The best time in Tarkov to use budget guns, and what I'm talking about is stuff like 215 VPOs or like PP19s or pretty much any shotgun or like, you know, very lightly modded AKs or M4s or SMGs or anything like that. Use them in the early game. Do not break your bank making a gun that's going to set you back 150 to 200k. Just stop. You do not need them in the early game. It is very unlikely you're going to run into some Omega geared Chad in the early wipe, rocking an Alton with a slick, with whatever, you know, end game modded gun of choice. Those people are super rare, especially for maybe the first month of the wipe. So this is the time to rock budget guns and build up your bank balance. This is how all of the experienced Tarkov players end up having a ton of money, is because they know not to waste a ton of money on expensive gear and expensive mods and really expensive ammo. This is the best time to use cheap ammo, cheap mods, cheap guns, because you don't need anything more than that unless you're hunting Killa or the new scav bosses or whatever. Don't bother. Just run it cheap, run it cheerful, man. Cheap and cheerful. Now, moving on from that, another point that seems to fly over everybody's heads. They always complain about not being able to make any money. We're going to combine a tip that I've already mentioned with running night times. Seriously, consider running caches. If you have the time, take an hour or maybe 2 hours out of your day every day and just do cache runs at nighttime. Do it on shoreline, do it on customs, do it on whatever map you're comfortable doing cache runs on. If you're not comfortable with the cache locations, you can always open, I think it's mapgenie.io is a website that will show you all of the cache locations on whatever maps have caches, and then you can just follow the map point to point to point, pull it up on your phone, a tablet, another monitor, whatever, and just run caches, because caches are insane money. Not only are they really good for making money, but they're also really good for stacking up on kits. So you can get helmets, you can get armor, you can get rigs, you can get guns, you can get ammo, you can get all the stuff that you need from caches. Caches are so unbelievably slept on, and it is such a fantastic way of making a ton of money in the early game. Now that we have mentioned how to make some money, how to get your quests done quickly, we are going to talk about a couple of combat tips. Now, I know I've mentioned this before, but I'm still going to mention it here because I think it is very, very important, especially in the early game. And this is something that people just don't think about, and they always are just like, I have to take this fight. Lads, always consider running. In the early game, it's a rat race, right? You need to get your stuff done and level up, because the longer the wipe goes on, the harder it is to quest and the harder it is to get all of your shit done, okay? So, this wipe, I've made it my mission, like, quite a few times. If I run into somebody, or if I see a duo or a trio that are engaging with me, the first thought in my head is I should back off. And if I can't back off to a better position, I will simply do a wide flank around them, and I will just leave the raid, or I will go somewhere else where those guys are not. Because what happens is most people won't realize that you've ran, because so many people are used to like, oh, he's just going to be set up in there for the next 10 minutes. We're going to have to push him and fight him. While they're sitting outside trying to figure out what to do, you've already left. You're probably already back in your stash. You're probably back in your next raid already at this point. So always consider running. Now, why? Now, some of you guys in the comments are like, oh, you fucking pussy, why are you running away from a fight? Well, hear me out, okay? In the early game of Tarkov, what are you fighting for? Oh, you're going to fight the dude who's wearing like an Untar armor with some shittily modded PP19? Or some dude who has like, you know, a 6B43 helmet with some crappily modded AK with like a scav backpack or something like that. You stand to gain pretty much nothing when you could just be doing your quests or farming items that you need to build up your hideout or your stash. So when you put it that way, I feel like it makes a lot more sense in everybody's minds that you shouldn't be taking every fight if you weigh up the pros and cons. Like, even in the end game, if I'm wearing full kit and I've got an Alton or something and I see some naked dickhead with a Mosin or something, guess what? I'm not going to fight him. I'm going to leave, because the pros are way higher for him and the cons are endless for me, because that guy can one-tap my Alton with his Mosin. So why would I ever want to take that fight? Oh, for ego? Dude, who gives a shit about your ego when you're broke? Because you keep taking fights with shittily geared players that you stand to gain absolutely nothing from, other than you maybe want some PvP. Now, you don't always have to do this, but you should always consider it. Take 5 seconds, weigh up the pros and cons, and if it seems like there's way more cons than there is pros, leave the fight, okay? Moving on to the next combat tips that I have here. Lads, don't repeat the same angle twice, okay? This is the #1 mistake that I see people making all the time. People do it against me all the time. If I am holding an angle and you peek and I shoot you and I miss, if you peek that same angle again, I guarantee you I won't miss the second time. And most other people won't either. What you do here is, if you're fighting a player or if you're fighting a squad and your position is compromised and they already have a bead on where you are, reposition, run back, peek from another angle, run away. They will push you eventually in most cases, so you can make just space and just back off to a more advantageous position for you, whilst you let them push you or try and flank you and get to somewhere where you can hold more angles, where you are in a better position to fight either a single player or a squad. Use your surroundings to your advantage. Tarkov has tons of cover, tons of places you can hide and hold, tons of angles to where people won't expect you to be sitting in. But if you're standing at the same pillar and you go, "Ugh," and somebody just misses your face, and then you re-peek again and you die, and like you call him, you know, a shit player, or you say that guy's lucky, or you call him a cheater, I've got news for you. You're just bad. Do not do that. It is the #1 sin in this game, as is the #1 sin in most other FPS games, be they competitive or not. Repeating the same angle will 99% of the time result in death and sadness and probably a punch to your desk. Lads, flanking. Flanking is so important, okay? If you are fighting a squad, same as I was saying before, do not stay in the same position. Always make sure to flank, okay? Fighting squads is all about creating distance to where you can pick them off one by one and isolate targets, okay? That is it. So, guys, those have been some of my tips for the start of Wipe. So hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, my dudes.